All right, guys, what's going on? So I'm going to tell you about an incident that just transpired. This is one of those situations where the story that I'm about to tell you subsequently becomes larger than the story that I was covering. So here's what's going on. I was just at the Frederick County Adult Detention Center, which is located at 7300 Marcy's Choice Lane. That's a governmental unit here in Frederick County, Maryland. The reason for my being at the Frederick County Adult Detention Center was to visit an inmate during lawful visitation hours. I was trying to get their side as it relates to a story that I've been conducting for a while now. So in any event, I received a phone communication from this inmate. Believe it was about 2 days ago I received this communication, and I set up today's date as the visitation time to meet this inmate behind bars at the Frederick County jailhouse. So how it works here in Frederick is the female women's unit, the visitation for females is Saturday between 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So I showed up to get comment from this individual, from this inmate at the Frederick County Adult Detention Center. I showed up during normal business hours for female inmates, which again, like I just told you, 9 a.m. to 4. I showed up at 2 p.m. and I brought my valid government-issued ID, which is required to see the inmate. You have to do that. So I walked up to the front desk, and I spoke with the woman, the officer. I don't know who she is. Maybe she's like a special deputy with the Frederick County jailhouse. I don't know what her position is, or quite frankly, who she is. But I told her who I was and who I was there to see, gave her the ID and all that. And there became a conversation about like why I was there, and it came up that I was a journalist. I think she perhaps could have even recognized me. I'm not sure. But the conversation came up that I could be a journalist, and I didn't, of course I didn't deny that. Obviously that's what I do. That's part of, my life. I do that. So she was like, okay, well, let me call in to see what you qualify as, because there's personal visits and then there's professional visits. And, I'm there for whatever. I mean, you call it whatever you want it. This was business hours to meet female inmates. I was there at the correct time. You call it personal, professional, whatever it is you want to call it. Whatever it is I do, journalism aside, really shouldn't matter. I didn't really care what it is they wanted to label me as long as I got my behind through that door to see that inmate. That was all I was concerned with. I was there to do a lawful thing, and, I didn't think that would be an issue. So the woman working the front desk comes back to me, and she says, well, we actually, since you do journalism and you're a journalist around here, and since that's what you do, we consider you as a journalist. We consider you here on business duty, and we consider what you're trying to do a professional visitation. Therefore, you are not allowed to see this inmate at this time. And I said, no way is that going to fly. So she tries to hand me, and I think I have it here, this woman who's working the front desk. She tells me I need to contact Captain Law, no pun intended, Captain Law, and she gives me his phone number and says that I need to call him on Monday and see if I can set up a professional visit to see this inmate, and that I would have to be approved to basically get in here. There would need to be an approval process for me to do a lawful activity, which is to make a visitation to an inmate during business hours with not technically a business day, but it's a business day at the jailhouse because, Saturdays, the lawful visitation hours are from 9 a.m. to 4. So in that sense, it is a business day. So during business hours on a business day, I'm trying to do lawful business. And the woman at the front desk is telling me that since they consider me a journalist in this county, that whatever I'm trying to do will be considered as a professional visit, and that at any time, essentially, I could be denied the right to visit somebody in jail. So I wasn't having that whatsoever. I said, that's a crock of you know what, And I told her to I said, call your supervisor, call him down here. I'm not going anywhere. I am seeing this inmate today. No buts about it. Get your supervisor down here and I'll speak with him about it. So the woman who was working the front desk, she called the supervisor down. I wasn't going to listen to a thing that she was saying. She was also trying to make it seem like I needed to leave the premises too, and wouldn't provide me anything in writing as to the policy she kept trying to refer to. She never showed me anything, but I didn't want to speak to her at all anyway. So we got the supervisor involved. It took about 10, maybe 5 to 10 minutes for the supervisor, whoever is her oversight, to get down there to the Frederick County Adult Detention Center to further handle the matter. So the guy showed up. He walked through the door. I could tell who he was right when he walked in. I shook his hand. I said, "You must be the supervisor." He said, "Yeah, that's me. What's going on here?" He was confused as to what was happening. And I told him who I was. I told him who I was there to see. I told him what my purpose was. My purpose was to cease this person. I told him it's during business hours on a business day. These are your rules and your procedures set forth in your policies, in your handbooks. And I am here to effectively initiate a lawful course of action during the lawful time to do that lawful action. And so he didn't inquire any further from me. The supervisor walked right up to the front desk worker and said, "Let him in. Let him in." That was basically, like, that was like verbatim what he said. And yeah, they let me in. They let me in. They delayed my visitation by a half an hour, right? Which was, in my opinion, that's ridiculous. They delayed me by a half an hour, right? And I had to get the supervisor involved to be able to see an inmate, to have this brief interaction with this inmate. They literally did not want to have a journalist in that building. That's what I think it ultimately comes down to. I think it ultimately comes down to they knew who I was. They knew that if I'm here, that I'm most likely here to perhaps cover something that might not make them look so good. And they didn't want me in that building, and they tried to get me out of that building. They tried to tell me I couldn't be in that building. They tried to tell me that I needed to call whoever this guy is to set up a visitation. They tried to tell me that I could be denied visitation. They tried to tell me all that. Now, I didn't have any of that. We got the supervisor. You can call me whatever, Karen, Kevin, whatever you want to call me. I said, "Get your supervisor down here. I will speak with the manager about it." Manager came down and set the front desk worker in line, told that woman to let me in. And that was a very, very cordial interaction between myself and the supervisor for the Frederick County Adult Detention Center. He let me right in that building. He knew that there was no reasonable or no lawful grounds, I should say, to deny me access to being able to see this inmate. He course corrected immediately. He probably reprimanded her. He should reprimand her because she wasted a lot of my time, and what she was trying to do was unlawful, fully and outright. But nonetheless, I stood my ground. I didn't leave. We got a supervisor involved, and I made that point of contact with that inmate today. Spoke with her, a little bit. Maybe I'll do it again. But this is what you face. This is what you face when you try to do things like this. If you want to expose corruption, if you want to, be somebody who, wants to be a thorn in the rear of governmental agencies, if you're not looking out for their best interests because they're not looking out for ours, then, you become like the problem child and they want to start messing with you. Well, it didn't work for him today. Didn't work at all. So I got in that building, stood my ground, and I made that point of communication with who I was trying to communicate with no issue. And I'll do it again. And, that's just the way it is. So another win for the Constitution today in Frederick County. Stood my ground. I wish somebody could have been there to film it. But nonetheless, that's what happened. So Levi Trumbull reporting in Frederick. The situation this is about, you'll see a video on that release after this one. But it's just one of those things that you're there to cover a story and then something happens that even becomes a bigger story. You see that all too often. So again, like I said, Levi Trumbull reporting in Frederick, and we'll catch you next time.